Hi, I'm here at, it's November the 5th, 2024. It's the evening of the election night, and I'm here at a Butterfly Restaurant in West Hartford, and I'm at the Republican Watch Party. It's called a watch party because we're watching what's going to happen. None of the results are in for West Hartford, but we're here, and we're going to be speaking to Sean Daly. He's the he's the chairman of the Republican Town Committee. So, Sean, what's going on?
You know, we're just having a good time, getting folks together, celebrating all the hard work that we've done all year in helping to support our candidates, getting the word out, getting the vote out, getting people to register, helping them understand what the true issues are, both at the local and state and federal government areas, and just having fun and getting a chance to blow off a little steam tonight as we watch the returns come in.
So you're having three candidates. You're having Kyle Zimmerman, Jim Griffin, and Matt Corey. All three of them are running a Republican race. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, yeah, we have Kyla Zimmerman in the state Senate 5th District running against Derek Slapp. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge. You know, we have to remember that in the town of West Hartford, we're not very diverse when it comes to our ideology. I think there's something like more than 20,000 registered Democrats to just under 6,000 registered Republicans. But that's okay. We get our voice heard. We get the word out. Kyle has run a really, really good race against Derek. We'll see what happens. And then at the state level, the federal level, that affects West Hartford. We have Jim Griffin, who's running against John Larson for U.S. Congress in the 1st District. And then we have Matt Corey, who's running against Senator Chris Murphy for U.S. Senate. So it'll be interesting to see, I think, Matt Corey's race and Jim's as well. Both have, Matt has run before, so he's got a lot of name recognition behind him, whereas Kyle and Jim, it's at least the first time running in these districts. So it'll be fun to see how things turn out.
Well, you say it's fun to see, but they're running, all three of these people are running against incumbents who've been around for a long, long time. Is there any hope that any of the Republicans will win, or what are you really looking for?
Well, I think one of the things, you know, when you live in a state that's as blue as Connecticut is, it certainly makes for some tough races. I think you have to pick your spots. Certainly, everybody I think will be watching the George Logan Jahana Hayes race. That doesn't necessarily affect West Hartford voters in that Logan and Hayes are not in the West Hartford voting districts, but it's still it's going to be a great race to watch. I think we have to pick our key areas. We're not going to change Connecticut from blue to red overnight, but I think I think one of the sad things for Connecticut is that all of our federal elected officials are all Democrat, and yet we preach diversity. So hopefully we start tonight and start working our way back to practicing what we preach in this state.
What about the national race? I mean, that's the race that's getting all the publicity, that's getting all the action. Do you have a little prediction? And it seems pretty close between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. But what's your take on this?
Well, obviously, when it comes to the West Hartford Republican Town Committee, all politics is local. But obviously, we support President Trump running. We think that he's got a very, very, very good chance of winning. I think people are tired of the economic issues, the Bidenomic issues that haven't worked. They're tired of seeing how our border policy has affected the economy. And, you know, it's funny how there were many blue states who didn't think that this was an issue until they had to view things themselves, with the governor of Texas sending illegal immigrants up to those states, and then suddenly it was a different tune. So I think people are starting to understand that. They're starting to understand it's about safety. They're starting to understand it's about world politics as well. And they saw the benefits of having Trump in office, previously, and they're longing for it again.
So one last message. Do you have any message that you want to send to the voters of West Hartford? I know it's after the fact, but it's a message.
Sure. I think one of the things is that we're trying to create a an even environment in West Hartford. It's not easy to be a Republican in the town of West Hartford, but every day our elected officials work across the aisle on things that we feel are important to voters and we hear are important to voters. And so we make sure that that voice is heard, and hopefully someday soon we'll have more of an even voice.
Well, thank you very much, Sean Daly. I've been talking to Sean Daly. He is the chairman of the Republican Town Committee. And stay tuned for more information and more news from Butterfly Restaurant at the Republican Town Watch. Thank you. So I'm here with John Sousa. He's a registered Republican, and once again, we're at the watch party for the Republican Party. So, John, tell me, what's this all about?
Well, tonight's going to be a good night, I think, for Donald Trump. Here we go again. It's a little scary what's going on. I see a lot of back and forth, which is a good thing. Hopefully we'll find out tonight, but I'm not too sure we will.
So, and why are you here? What are you doing here? Because you're a registered Republican, but you're not running for office?
No.
Okay, so why are you a registered Republican?
I'm a Republican because I believe in the Constitution. I believe that the Republican Party represents more freedom, less spending by government overall. I like Donald Trump's policies overall. And I believe that America is a great place and we can all work together, but I just believe more in the Republican side of looking at things.
So you're living in Connecticut, so being a Republican is not that popular a stance. Were you ever a Democrat?
I think the first year I was ever voted, I was a Democrat in high school, and then I started to educate myself a little bit and I moved to the other side.
Would you ever think of running for office? Because let's face it, being a Republican here is, it's an anomaly. And, you've been doing this for quite a few years. Is that in your mind to ever run for public office?
Not presently. I can work with everybody. I believe that both sides need to work together. I think that would be a good thing. That's how the system's supposed to work. Right now, I have no plans on running for office. Thank you.
What about issues? Are there certain issues that are very important to you?
Of course, the border is a big one. Spending at the federal level is a big one. I think that our debt is way out of control, and we need to have a growth policy in our country. There's no way to get out of this without more growth and less spending. It's the way the Constitution was set up. We're not supposed to spend this kind of money that we don't have.
So what about a message to the West Hartford voters? Is there something that you want to leave the West Hartford voters with?
Sure. If you want something, I think divided government is good government. When you have a one-party system like we do in West Hartford, like we do in Connecticut, it's not a good thing that the pendulum swings to one side way too far. I think a middle-of-the-road approach is always a better approach for Connecticut and, quite frankly, for West Hartford. It doesn't happen often, but once in a while it does happen. So I'd like to see that in the future. Maybe people should consider voting for the other party just to balance out the scales a little bit.
So you mentioned the middle of the road, which is not exactly a term that's applied to Donald Trump. So it's interesting that you should mention that.
Okay, well, what can I say? I believe in his policies overall, much more than I believe in Camilla's. I'm sorry, but that's the way I believe.
So I've been talking to John Sousa. He's a registered Republican, and we're here at Butterfly at the watch party. None of the results have come in. My name is Pat Kazakov. I'm in West Hartford Community Interactive. He'll tell you. He'll cue me. So I'm here. I'm still at the Republican Watch Party at Butterfly Restaurant in West Hartford, and I'm speaking to Patricia Hamilton. She's a registered Republican on the town committee, on the Republican Town Committee. So tell me about that. Tell me about being on the Republican Town Committee. What's that all about?
It's getting active. It's trying to get our views, our values back, and working within the community to make West Hartford and the state of Connecticut and the nation a better place to live.
So tell me a little bit more about town committee, that you're on the Republican Town Committee. What exactly does the town committee do?
We help the local candidates mostly. Our focus is more local than national. We're not, we do help obviously with the Trump campaign a little, but we're focused more on the local, the state, the town council, the Board of Ed, the state reps, and that's what our focus is, because it's the local people, I would say, the local elections that really impact you and me, and the cameramen as well. It's not the national as much.
And so being on the Republican Town Committee, are you voted on, or what's the mechanism for being on the committee?
No, you volunteer, and it's people of like interest. And then you're voted onto the committee, but you do not get voted in by the people on the from the town. It's just people of similar points of view.
Perspectives.
Right.
And how many people are on this town committee? Is there a minimum? Is there a maximum?
It varies, but I believe it's probably over 30 to 50. You'd have to ask other people.
And so how did you get on that town committee? Like, what was in your mind that you decided to do this? Because let's face it, being a Republican is not popular in Connecticut.
Well, it's not so much Connecticut. The smaller towns, yes, they're very Republican. However, it's the West Hartford, which is now a mini city. It's no longer a town, let's be honest. Look at the population and look at the growth and I can say the congestion in West Hartford is probably more congested than Hartford, more congested than Waterbury. So if you look at West Hartford, Waterbury, New Britain, all those are towns. They're mostly Democratic, but you also have to have a representation. And you need a representation of people who really do care. And we can't turn the clock back. We can't go back to the way West Hartford was when I was a little girl. You can't go back to when I graduated from grad school and came home. You can't do that anymore. So you have to work within the constraints of what we have. And unfortunately, it's gotten overpopulated and too many apartments, and it's just hard to get around. So we're trying to help maybe have West Hartford grow, but in a more sustained, and I'm going to say ecological viewpoint. More people, more pollution, more constraints on the society.
So do you think that the Republican Party in West Hartford can ever get some sort of authority in town politics? What's your thoughts on that?
All right. When I was a much younger person, obviously, when I was in my 20s and prior to that, West Hartford was Republican. It was overwhelmingly Republican. Then what happened as the population grew and the demographics changed, West Hartford changed, it became more and more Democratic. And then I went away, worked in New York City, worked in Boston, came back. I had children. School systems are wonderful. But West Hartford has changed by the makeup of the demographics of the town. So what we want to do is my idea is to work within that and then make it more of a hometown, more of a less congested, less congested city. My daughter, who graduated from one of the local high schools and went through West Hartford Public Schools from kindergarten all the way up through graduating from Conard, came back and she said, Mom, they've ruined the town. She said it used to be a lovely, nice, big town, but with a little vibe. She said now it's not recognizable. So maybe bring it back a little.
So is there a message that you would like to send to all the West Hartford voters that are watching this? Is there some certain message that you just want to share with everybody?
Don't vote party. Vote what is important for you, for your children, and the town. We want to maintain a good positive environment within the town, a good ecological environment within the town, and unfortunately, more and more people means more and more pollution, more and more overcrowding. So just don't go in there and pull a party lever, no matter what party you are. You have to think of the overall things. And I think the Republican Party does a better job of looking at the issues, of really dissecting and really taking it to the next level.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much.
So I've been talking to Patricia Hamilton once again. She's on the Republican Town Committee, and we're here in West Hartford at Butterfly Restaurant. I'm Pat Kazakoff. You're listening to WHCI. Thank you.
My name is Patricia.
I'm here once again with the with the chairman of the Republican Town Committee, Sean Daly. We're at Butterfly Restaurant in West Hartford, and we're going to be speaking again. So, Sean, we've spoken before. Tell me what's going on now.
Again, we're just still watching the returns come in. It's been a little interesting. I think the Connecticut returns just came in. We were a little surprised. I mean, only 1% of the vote in, but Trump seemed to be doing a lot better, I think, than even we expected. So in Connecticut, so at least it's fun to be able to see that. I think it's kind of fun to see how the news, the the news outlets are, projecting winners, and it's 0% of the vote in so far. So, be interested to see if their projections are right from their exit polls.
Well, I see you're very, very happy. Nothing's happened, and you're very, very happy. So, what's all the happiness about?
Well, again, I think as we had talked before, it's, this is a celebration of the hard work that our West Hartford Republican Town Committee has done this year, helping to register voters, get the vote out, get the word out about our candidates running for office that affect West Hartford. All politics are local. And our town committee canvassed for Kyla Zimmerman, Jim Griffin, and Matt Corey every single weekend since September. Really knocking on doors, dropping off palm cards, helping people understand what the true issues are that are affecting our state residents.
And so what are these true issues?
I think a few things. One is obviously the economy. First and foremost than anything else, it's about the fact that 4 years ago we were in a much better place than we are now. When you have people who are not living paycheck to paycheck, they're actually having, we're seeing credit card debt at its highest levels because people can't live paycheck to paycheck. We're seeing inflation still out of control with policies that are being used that are ineffective. And then when we see how government spending is just out of control, people think we have a strong economy, but it's from government spending. You put more money into an economy, things are going to cost more. It's not because we're producing more goods. And so I think that people are starting to realize those facts, and they're starting to use their vote accordingly. The other thing, too, is we see how badly crime has been. And it's funny because our opponents will nitpick and say, oh, well, crime is down here, crime is down there. It doesn't take a genius to see that overall what's happening in this state as well as other areas, that crime is really affecting others. And I think that that's important to voters in this state as well as at the national level.
I'm interested, we're talking about the Republican Town Committee. Who supports these town committees? Do you get dollars from Republicans, in Washington, D.C.? How is it supported?
No, we support, obviously, we actually support the state GOP and then the state at the national level. So we fundraise we help our candidates fundraise, especially at the municipal level elections, which we'll have next year. So remember our municipal elections for next year, West Hartford residents. And so it's a grassroots, dollar for dollar, trying to do what we can to get the word out, because it's an expensive process.
Right. So is the town committee funded by anybody, or you are funding you?
We are funding ourselves, and then in many cases, depending on the race, there is state funding that you can get, so that if you reach a certain level, if a candidate is able to raise a certain level of funding, they'll actually get funds from the state for the rest of their campaign.
So there's a quid pro quo that I get a certain amount. If I can do that, I can get money from the state. So you're working all the time. And how long have you been the chairman of the Republican Town Committee?
Oh, gosh. I think it's going on 5 years now, 5 or 6 years. You have to... Sorry, my memory's escaping me right now with looking at all of the data and statistics. But I've been with the town committee for close to eight or 9 years. I started as an RTC member. I worked as the treasurer for a little bit, and then as vice chairman, and then recently, past few years as chairman.
So did you ever think of running for public office yourself?
No. I like being the person behind the scenes supporting the candidates, helping them with strategy, helping them with... it's not easy to be a candidate running for office today, regardless of which party you are. But for now, at least, I enjoy doing what I do.
Yeah, no, I can tell you enjoy doing what you do. So one last message to the voters of West Hartford.
I think the message is, again, it's about coming together as a family. One of the biggest strategies that we have as a West Hartford Republican Town Committee is to make our town less toxic against the conservative view and the conservative vote in our town. And so we're really working hard to get our messages out. We have Republican elected officials who constantly work across the aisle to get things done and get our voice heard. And we've been able to have a lot of successes that we can hang our head on work that we've done. So we're excited.
I'm wishing you all the best. I'm wishing you all the luck. I know I've interviewed you a few times, and you're always so positive, and you're always gung-ho, and it's always a pleasure to be to work with you. So thank you very much, Sean Daly. I'm Pat Kazikoff. You're listening to West Hartford Community Interactive. I'm here with Lazarus Denabedian. He's a registered Republican in West Hartford, and we're still at Butterfly Restaurant at the watch party. So, Lazarus, tell me, you're a registered Republican. Why?
Always have been, and I just feel that the Republican platforms, the basic fundamental beliefs of the Republican Party, are what made this country great and what's going to make this country great again.
So, we are in Connecticut, we are in West Hartford, and it's not the most popular stance.
I'm reminded of that every day, unfortunately.
But you still have this perspective. Were you ever a Democrat?
No.
And what exactly, you're saying that these policies make sense to you, what exact policies are you talking about?
Well, I'm Catholic for one thing, so the abortion thing is very significant for us, for me and for my wife. And just the whole concept of the economy and what having a strong economy means for everybody, not just for the rich of so forth. And then the whole thing with immigration is just a travesty, in my opinion. We're the only country in the world that does that, actually.
And what exactly about immigration bothers you?
Open borders, people just streaming across our borders into our country without being vetted, without following the laws that we have. I mean, everybody that crosses that line illegally is a criminal, by definition.
Now, of course, you know that this is a country of immigrants, and your name,
is.
Danabedian, speaks to
Absolutely.
that.
All of my grandparents were orphans, all right? They all came to this country. They worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs, you name it. And that's how they became Americans, and that's how they became successful. Not by sneaking over the border and starting out by breaking our laws.
So you're not against immigration?
No, not at all. Again, it comes back to the economics. We need people of all backgrounds to do all the diverse work that we have in our country. So yeah, I'm not by any means against immigration. I'm just against illegal immigration.
And what about, you mentioned the abortion issue. That was important to you also.
Yeah, that's a personal value, if you will. So,
And any other issues that speak to you loudly?
the 3 that we talked about, the immigration, the economy, and the abortion, those are the 3 most significant for me.
And what about Donald Trump? How do you feel about Donald Trump?
I like him personally. I know I have a niece who is, by the way, gorgeous, who used to run some of his, when he had the Miss Universe contest. And like I said, she's gorgeous. She spent a lot of time alone with him, and he never said or did anything inappropriate. So a lot of the stuff that people criticize him for, I put away. The other thing is, I think he understands what it takes to have an economy where everybody can benefit. And that's basically, if you look at all his policies, that's the way it was. I mean, the people from the lower income levels prospered more in his 4 years than they ever have in the history of our country. So,
What about his policies about not taxing the rich, and not just the rich, but those above the rich, the super rich?
yeah, that's a good question. But bear in mind, when he changed or led the change, I should say, in many of the tax laws, our revenue went up. All right? So people of an unlike mind tried to focus on the fact that they were saving the rich money. But who creates the jobs in this country, the poor or the rich? Good question, huh?
Well, there's
see
an
you
obvious
smiling.
there's an obvious answer to the question.
Yeah.
So we're here now, and we're at the watch party. We don't know what's really happening yet. We haven't
I
gotten
think
any
it
results.
might be a long time before we do know.
Yes, you are correct. Is there any message you want to send to the West Hartford voters?
Vote Republican for one thing. Bear in mind that our country, if you go back to the founding of our country, we have a constitution, all right? It's been the reason, and freedoms and liberties, and it's the reason why so many people in this country have done as well as we have. And I don't mean just the rich, I mean everybody. So just value and respect our Constitution, and things will be fine.
So I've been talking to Lazarus Danabedian. He has some very major issues that he talks about. Talked about the abortion, talked about immigration, talked about the economy, and he is a registered Republican, and he's strong on Donald Trump, and he's strong on the Republicans.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I think JFK was a great president, by the way, even though I didn't vote for him, because he understood.
So I'm speaking to Ari Schaefer. He's on the Republican Town Committee, happens to be the youngest person that is on the Republican Town Committee. Am I correct?
It's around there. There are a few of us on the younger side. Yeah.
Right. So in any case, you're on the Republican Town Committee. It's not a popular place to be in West Hartford. The Democrats are much more popular. How come you're on the Republican Town Committee?
Well, I guess I would say there's a difference between showing up to events and the popularity of the movement. I think part of the issue is that Connecticut has been so strongly Democratic and West Hartford has been strongly Democratic that there are people who are a little as nervous to come out and speak or demonstrate and show that they're a Republican. In the neighborhood where I live, I do see Trump signs, I see Harris signs. There are people on both sides, a lot of people energized on both sides of the debate. Yeah.
Have you ever been a Democrat?
I've been a Republican my whole life. I think about the issues. I've been more moderate, more conservative. You couldn't really plot me exactly where on the Republican spectrum, but I think I've been a Republican from the day I was born.
So if you couldn't quite plot you and you say you're a little conservative, how's your feeling towards Donald Trump?
There are things he does that I like, things he does that I don't like, but I think the choice is clear between the two candidates. Who would be better for me, who would be better for the country, who would be better for my community, who would be better for Connecticut. And one of the issues that I'm particularly concerned about, I'm Jewish, I lead marches every Sunday morning in Bishop's Corner calling for release the hostages held by the Hamas terrorist group in Gaza that precipitated the ongoing conflict in Israel. And I think it's clear from my perspective that Donald Trump is better for Israel, and it's not just a question of the Jewish community in America and what they want. It's really the values and ideals of America and how they're embodied in this conflict. Israel clearly stands for those. Hamas and their leadership in Gaza is clearly antithetical to everything we want, and that's not just a conservative position. They also hate everything that liberals, progressives want. They don't like LGBTQ people. They don't like free speech. They don't like women's rights. And Donald Trump is clearly on the side of Western values, of those freedoms that we care about. And I think there's really no question about who's better on that issue in this race.
So Israel is one of your strong issues, Israel and Gaza. Do you feel that Kamala Harris would be detrimental to Israel, or would she be neutral?
It's too early to tell. She's made a lot of concerning comments during her campaign associated with a progressive wing of the Democratic Party that does concern me. You've seen protests around the country supporting Hamas, even in Israel, in Washington, D.C. itself. And that's kind of the wing of the Democratic Party that Kamala Harris comes from and is sympathetic to. You look at the positions she had in 2019 before she flip-flopped on all of them in this current race. Those are the positions that kind of wing of the party has. So I know she's changed a lot of her positions in recent years, recent months really, has really tried to seem supportive of Israel. It doesn't really jive with the record of Kamala Harris that I'm familiar with.
What about other issues? Do you have other issues besides the Israel issue? Because that's an international issue. It's not a local issue.
Yes, I care about a lot of other issues. I would say the Israel issue is first and foremost in my mind. It's in the news every day. Extended family, friends who live in Israel. Jews are subjected to an alarming amount of anti-Semitism as a result. So obviously that's not just an Israel issue, it's a question of how people have responded in the States. Donald Trump has always been a friend to the Jewish people in the United States. He's done work to combat anti-Semitism. He hasn't ever pushed this both sidesing that I've seen coming from the Democratic Party, which concerns me. On economic issues, Donald Trump's record is clear. We had record employment or record low unemployment across a wide variety of demographic groups. I think the lowest for women, lowest unemployment rate for women in 50 years, lowest unemployment for Black Americans in decades, if not ever. We had strong growth month after month, year after year under Donald Trump. One of the biggest concerns, obviously, on most voters' mind is the inflation that's plagued us under President Biden's tenure. Donald Trump, you didn't see that issue.
Is there anything else that you would like to share besides the Israel issue? Is there some other issue that's very, very important to you? I can understand the Israel issue being important to you. You're Jewish. You lead the marches every Sunday. But is there something else that you want to speak to?
Well, I just spoke about the economic issues and economic concerns. I have a young family. I have young kids. Concerned about the costs of raising those kids. And I'm confident that Donald Trump and his policies will be better for the economy, will be better for jobs, will be better for wage growth. As I mentioned a second ago, the inflation under the Biden administration, I think, is 19% over the 4 years of his tenure, versus very moderate inflation rate, I think 2 to 3% over Trump's tenure. And you've seen wage growth under Biden, but it's been well below the inflation we've seen over his tenure. So that means all of us have lost money. I think about the wage growth, the salary, the increases, the raises I've had, my family's had, my friends have had, and we always take a second and go like, oh, we're so happy we got a raise. And then we do the math and think, wait, how has inflation, how do you count inflation and all of that? And it really drains away the things that we're trying to, so it makes it harder and harder to get ahead. It's harder to pay our grocery bills. It's harder to feed our families. And beyond that, that's really a core issue. And obviously we can't ignore security at the border, which is a top concern for everyone. And it's not just something thousands of miles away. Down at Texas, it's something that's affecting the whole country. Donald Trump has made it an issue since the very beginning of his campaign and has been criticized roundly for it. He talked about the wall. He wanted to build the wall his entire campaign, his entire tenure, and he was fought every step of the way by the Democratic Party, lawsuits in Congress, and wouldn't you know it, a month out of the election, Kamala Harris suddenly comes out in favor of a border wall. All of a sudden, she needs to win an election and realizes it's an issue and it's a vulnerability. Millions of illegal immigrants streaming across the border, and it's on the small border towns in Texas to handle that. And I think that's why you've seen over the past couple of years conservative border towns that used to vote reliably Democrat are rethinking how they're going to vote because they've seen the impact of the open border policies of the Harris administration firsthand.
I'm going to go a little bit more local. I'm going to go backwards a little bit. We talked about anti-Semitism. Have you had experience any anti-Semitism in West Hartford?
I personally haven't. This past Sunday, like I said, we do marches every week to just raise the plight of the hostages, about 100 Israeli hostages who were taken captive by Hamas, the terrorist group that runs Gaza in Israel, on October 7th. Every week we just say their names, we say a prayer for their release. We've been joined by Senator Blumenthal, Congressman John Larson, Mayor Sherry Cantor here in West Hartford. We've had politicians on both sides of the aisle come and join us and share in this call. And when we got there were Palestinian flags along the parade route. The Palestinian flags today at the corner of Albany and Troutbrook. Someone, a generous local Israel supporter, put up a sign just calling attention to the American hostages, the 8 American hostages who are being held captive, one of whom was shot dead shortly before he would have been rescued by the Israeli government. Someone put Palestinian flags in front of those. I've heard countless stories of people who are dealing with intimidation in the schools, there was a book that was assigned in the local schools by an author who has said anti-Israel, anti-Semitic things, and local parents have had to fight back against things like that. I'm lucky I've been not directly targeted, but I've seen it, I've heard it. It's unfortunately become a plague both in West Hartford and around the country.
Well, I'm pretty aware of what you do on the weekend on Sundays. I have attended your marches, your parades, and I notice that every weekend you're attracting more and more people. It's quite impressive to me to see because the people come from all walks of life. And yes, Senator Blumenthal I've seen, and you're really doing a great job on this. And you came, you sort of arrived out of nowhere to do this, and so I'm pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive to me. Is there one last message you want to share with the voters of West Hartford?
The polls are closed, so it's too late to tell you to go vote. But regardless of the result today, keep the issues that matter to you to the forefront. Don't forget the hostages. When you think about the Israel issue, don't remember that this is how it all started. When you're thinking about your paycheck, your bank account, remember the policies and the politicians who are good for who are going to increase your quality of living, increase the money that you bring home and you can spend on your family.
Thank you. I've been speaking to Ari Schaefer. He is on the Republican Town Committee, and he's one of the youngest people that we've interviewed here at Butterfly Restaurant. And so it's good to have someone that obviously people are coming up, and obviously supporters are young and old, and women and men. So it's just really inspirational to see young people rising to the challenge. Thank you.